So, so far, we covered some basic core clauses in DML. And by DML, I mean data manipulation language, which is basically all the clauses that you need to like manipulate the data in your tables, right? It's nothing to do with the structure of the table and what you have, for example, in data definition language, such as, for example, when you drop a column, when you create a table, when you drop or create a table, or even if you alter a table, for example, adding a column, changing the data type. So these are all DDL commands that we've covered. And for DML, we said that the focus is on the data in the tables. So if you want to, for example, delete the data in the tables, if you want to update some values in your tables, if you want to select some data, retrieve some data from your tables. So the main DML commands are select, right? The select is for just retrieving the data from your table. Insert. So after you created your tables, if you remember, we were inserting data into it, right? Because when you create tables, what is that table? It's just an empty table with some structure. It has columns, it has primary key, foreign keys, if you set index or constraint. So those are all for the DDL part and the structure of your tables, right? That you define at that stage. But the table itself is empty. You want to insert data into that. So we learned how to manually insert data. I tried to cover also to show you how to, for example, because in real case projects you may want to insert, for example, you have a CSV file, you want to insert it into your database, or you want to like other forms of inserting the data. I will cover that too. And then once we have data in our tables, another thing that you may need is to sometimes update that data, right? So for example, if you want to update a grade of a student, if you want to update salary of an employee, and so on, price of a product, right? Several things might need to be updated later. That's when you use update. And finally, delete command is to, if you want to, for example, remove something from your tables. So it's all about data manipulation language. It's all about the data in your tables. Either inserting the data, updating that data, retrieving that data using select a segment, or removing the data using the delete command. And we have covered also some information, some examples. For example, how to use select. You write select, followed by the column names. This will give you a table with two columns, right? Staff name and salary. What if you want to get all the columns? What do you use? Select the star, right? And from is another clause which actually identifies from which table you want to get the data, right? From which table or tables. For example, here staff name and salary are both columns of the staff table, so we select staff name and salary from the staff table, where salary is greater than 15,000. So what does this query do? It just basically finds all the staff whose salary are more than this amount, right? And how to use insert command? You just write insert into, right? The name of the table. For example, if you want to insert into the staff table, right? Let's say one row of data. This is how you do that. You just follow by the name of the column. You can also skip this part. It's fine even if you write insert into staff. Don't mention the name of the column, but you have to follow the order of the columns then, okay? So you'll have to first insert, for example, 510, which is the staff ID, followed by the staff name, and so on. If that's textual information, columns that is varchars, text, something like that, you are using like these codes. Otherwise, if it's integer, then you just write it without any codes. What if you want to use the update command? You just write update, right? Followed by again the table name because you want to update the table staff. But what update do you want to do? For example, I want to set the column salary, all the values in the column salary multiply by, let's say, 2, 1.5, or anything. So you just write, for example, update staff, set salary equal to this. But what if you want to update salary of a specific employee, right? For example, where staff ID is this. Then whatever condition that you have, it always comes in the where clause, right? So we write, for example, update the staff, set salary equal to whatever update you want to do, and then if you have any condition, like for example, updating the salary of Mona, then you write, for example, where staff name is Mona or where staff ID is something. And how to use the delete command? You just write delete from, right? Name of the table, and then add in your condition. For example, where staff ID is 550. And so this is just the general form for data retrieval. Select or select distinct. And what was the difference between select and distinct and select distinct? Yeah.
With just a regular select, it selects for whatever you ask for it, but like with distinct, it only picks like one distinct value if there's a repeated value.
Yeah. So for instance, let's say if you write select, I don't know, staff name and department, for example, select department, let's say department number from the employee table. Then it retrieve all the department numbers, right? So even if you have, for example, let's say it's an employee table, right? In the employee table, should the department number be unique? No, you may have an employee table, right? So this is an employee ID. This is, for example, an employee ID. And let's say this is department number, okay? So let's say employee ID 1, Mona, 2, Alex, 3, Hannah, and so on. So department number, let's say, is 10 here, 10 here, 20, and 25, right? So we may have multiple employees working in the same department. Now, if you just write select department number from employee table, then it returns all these 10, 10, 20, 25, including the duplicates. But if you just want to get, let's say you have a table with millions or thousands of rows, right? And you have only, let's say, a few, let's 10 distinct values. You don't want to like retrieve all those millions of rows, right? You just want to get those 10 distinct values. In that case, you write select distinct department number, right? If you have, for example, let's say at York, we may have thousands of employees. And then how many departments do we have? Maybe, let's say 10, 20, right? If you want to see how many distinct, what are the distinct departments that you have at York University, right? You don't want to get like ECS, thousands of times. You just want to get, for example, business, ECS, for example, and so on. So whatever department you have. So that's the difference between select and select distinct. And then from, obviously from which table or tables you want to get the data from, where comes with the conditions that you have. For example, where salary is greater than something, when grade is, or GPA, for example, is in this range, where name is Mona, and so on, whatever condition you have. Group by. Anyone remember? What is a group by and when to use that? I'm going to add another column here to help you better with this question. So, what if I also have a salary column here, right? And let's say Mona is 100K, Alex is 200K, 150, 120, right? And these are the salaries. Can you give me an example of a group by? Using group by?
Maybe department number and salary.
Yeah, and what does it do? So if you want to group by salary or department?
Wait, sorry. I might be confused.
I just, as a hint, you use group by when you want to group your data, group rows of your data, and find, and we often use it with aggregated functions such as average, count, maximum, minimum, something like that. So it's like, for example, if you want to find maximum grade in each class at your university, right? Or if you want to find, for example, the sum of something, right? Sum of, I don't know, prices or anything, or count of, for example, products, count of employees. So any kind of aggregated functions that you want to think of, right? So it could be count, sum, max, pair, departments, per, for example, anything. So with this example, what do you think? How can we use group by? So, can you give me an example here?
Can you write a query to find the average salary for each department?
Yeah.
By the department number.
Yeah. So this is the example we covered last week, right? So finding, let's say you have 10 departments at York, and you want to find the average salary for each department. Maybe you want to see which departments have the highest average salary, right? So you want to see what is the average in each department. And how can we use that? For example, can I write select, let me see if I have the tables still here. Okay, so let's say I write select, right? And I want you to tell me if this query is correct or not, okay? Department number and average salary, right? From which table? Staff, right? This is the name of the table. And I use group by department number. Okay. Is this correct? And if yes, what it does? Yes. Yeah, so it should give me what should my output look like. So it probably look like, let me, I want the camera to get also that screen there. Okay, so now it gets searched. So I want it, now this will give me a table with two columns, right? So one column is department number. So whatever you define in your select part of your statement, right, appears here. So those are the columns that you want to see. So if I write select department number and average salary, it means here I see department number and average salary, right? So this is exactly what you will see. Now, so for example, department, let's say 10, and then I group by the department number, right? It means I want to find the average salary for each department, right? So let's say we have 10 departments. For example, department 10, 20, 30, and so on. And then I'll get the average salary for each of these departments. For example, here is 100K, 150, 200, and so on. Now, what if I want to get this result sorted? What if I want to get this result sorted in, for example, ascending order?
Order by?
Yeah, order by. So you always use order by. So what is the default? Is it ascending or descending?
Ascending.
Default is always ascending, right? And so if you don't specify anything and you just, for example, and I want to order by the salaries, right, by the average salary. So then you just have the average salary, right? If you don't specify anything, it's ascending. If not, it's descending. And this average salary here, average is not aggregated functions, is the name of the column, right? What is a better, what is a better way to write this? You can define a name for this column, right? So for example, when you write, let's say you write select department number, and you want to find the number of employees in each department. So again, whenever I ask you find, for example, count of something in each department, when I use the word most of the time, each, right, means that I want you to group the data. And it's often you're using the aggregated functions. So for example, you want to find the number of employees in each department, right? So it means that you want to group your data into the departments, right? And then finding the number of employees in that department. How can I get the number, the count? What can I use for that? Count, right? The aggregate function is count. So we have count, we have sum, max, mean, right? So these are what we have. So here you can use count. Count of what in the staff table gives you the number of employees? Yeah?
Department ID.
Count department.
Employee ID.
Employee ID, right? Or count star, right? In the staff table, the star is all the rows. The staff table is containing all the information for the staff or employees, right? So we'll write, for example, count employee ID, employee name, whatever, right? And it gives you the number of employees. Group by department, which find the number of employees in each department, right? So now we found the average salary for each department and we ordered by the salary in ascending order. If I want to see the salaries from the highest to the lowest, what should I write in the order by? From the highest to the lowest, we use as descending, right? So you just use descending here. Now for this, you can always use aliases, right? For example, average salary as, right? And you write whatever name that you want. Now let's say I want to write average underline salary, right? So this is the name of the column because I want to give a name to it. Let's say here you have count instead of average. We have count, right? And here instead of salary, I have a staff ID. Okay? So what does this do? It selects department number, right? And count of staff ID. Count as the name suggests counts, right? What does it count? It counts the staff ID, right? From the staff table, so it should give you the number of employees from the staff table, but group by department number. So you want to find the number of employees in each department. For example, in department 10, count of employees, right? Count of the staff ID is, I don't know, 20, 50, or 65, and so on. So this is the number of employees. Number of employees per department for each department, right? And why is it better to give it a name? Like use alias to give it a name? So it's just more beautiful, right? Instead of writing count staff ID, you just simply, let's say, give it a good name for me. Count instead of count staff ID. What name do you suggest?
Number of staff members.
Number of staff, for example, right? Or whatever name that you want. Count staff, something like that. So that AS, just give it a name. And so I'm going also to explain why actually we need to do the group by and what does this group by actually do, like from the back. Yes.
Does count always count distinctively? Like, does the count clause, does it count distinctively? So
no, if you want to count distinct, you use distinct. And we have example. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll show you an example. So here, I'm trying to first finish everything in the slides today, and then we'll go hands-on using the VS Code. Okay, select distinct from, we already explained this. Just remember these two tables because we are, like most of the queries that we are using today are based on the data in these two small tables, okay? So one is the staff table, having the staff ID, staff name, department number, job, number of years, salary, and commission. And an organization table, which is like the department, is department number, name, manager ID, division, and location. And so here, okay, so this is just for the select and select distinct, which we already covered. We also covered order by and where. So do you have any questions for the order by? Because we spent a lot of time last session. So if it's clear, I'll move on. And I want to go to the example after the order by, and we also covered the predicates. Okay, so for the group by. Okay, so before that, I want to ask a question. So now, you said this query is correct, right? I want to make some changes, and then you tell me if that is still correct. So what if I write, select department number, staff ID, average salary. So is this correct? Anyone like on the corners? No? No one? So is this correct? Can I select department number, staff ID, and average salary from the staff group by department number? And if you don't know that, always think about the result of your query, okay? So always think what you want to see, the same way that I did it here, right? When I wrote select department number, average salary, blah, 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 I said, okay, this is the table that I want my result to look like. Now, let's say we have department number, staff ID, and average salary, okay? So here, I have department number, average salary, and staff ID. Okay? So you should be able to tell me what is the problem now. So here, I'm selecting department number, right? Staff ID, and average salary for each department. So for department 10, right? I want to get the average salary, which was, for example, 100K, 20, which was 150K, and department 30, which was, I don't know, 200K, and so on. Now, is this correct? Can you tell me what is the staff ID for department 10? You cannot, because this is group, right? So all the departments in your like staff table, if you have, for example, department 10, 10, 10, 10, for different employees, let's say Mona, Alex, Sarah, and so on, right? So these were your department numbers. These are the staff ID, right? And these employees all working in department 10, right? What I can do is using the aggregate functions to find the average salary for these employees, because this will group the data, right? And then for department 10, I can have, for example, this average salary. For department 20, right, I can have some other average salary, right? This is department 20, and then some other average, right? But if you don't do that, if we have something like this, there are several staff working in the same department, right? Which staff do you want to write here? You cannot, right? So is this clear? What does the group by do? So group by groups the rows of your data based on like the values of a specific field, and then the main goal is to use the aggregated functions like finding the average, minimum, maximum, count, something. And that is why whenever you have group by, your select part of your statement is limited to only the column that you use in your group by, and what? What else can you use in your select part when you use group by? So this is obviously not correct, right? So we said we cannot use a staff ID because this is not an aggregated number, right? And there are many staff IDs working in each department, so it is not possible to write or find a value for that. But if you write, for example, count a staff ID, can I write that then? Yes, because then you can count number of employees in each department. So sorry, back to your question. Your question was for the group by, right?
Well, specifically for the count. So when you're counting, like for example, like we have like multiple like number 10s, like in the department number, right? So when you're counting, is it gonna count only one of the 10s, or it's gonna like count twice? Okay. Is it counting the rows or
so
the?
For the count itself, it doesn't count distinctly, right? But if your question is related to then this specific example when you use group by, because when you use, for example, group by department number, you already group the data into distinct departments, right? You don't, like in your result, when you group by department number, can I have a resulting table like this? So this is department number, 10, 10, 10, 20, 20. Can I have something like this if I group by department number? No. The main point of group by, if I group by department number, it means it groups all the same values into one, right? So instead of this, our result will be something like that, right? 10, 20, and then find the average, minimum, maximum count of something for that. So for example, counting staff ID. So it doesn't make sense to use count department number if you're already grouping by the departments, right? But you can have count staff ID, right? And then finding the number of employees in each department. So this is not correct, but if it comes with aggregated functions such as count, then it's correct. So your select part is limited to what? If you're using group by, which columns can you use in the select?
Those that use in group by.
Sorry?
Those that we use in group by?
Yes, the column that you use in the group by, exactly. And how can I use other columns?
We're using aggregation.
Only if they come with aggregated functions. For example, can you write select department number and salary from staff group by department number? No, right? Because which salary? Salary of whom? There are many employees in one department, And so there will be many salaries. If this is the salary, then what salary should I write? But when you write average salary, then it's clear that for department 10, we want to calculate the average salary of employees. So this is about the group by. So is this query correct? Select department number, count star, average salary, and minimum salary from staff, group by department number. Yes, this is correct, right? And yeah.
A question about group by.
Yeah.
If you just use staff ID without the aggregate and you put group by department number, comma staff ID, does that work?
You write select staff ID.
So department number, 2 columns. And
Department number and staff ID.
And you put both the columns in group by.
And then group by. So as long as your column is in the group by, is correct,
So there
right?
are multiple columns there too.
Because you want to because you group by, you want to group by this, the department number and the staff ID. So why should you do that? Because then it doesn't make sense. If you group by the department number and staff, then it's the original table, right? You often want to use, it will be like, for example, I don't know, if this is, let's say, staff ID, right? And let's say staff 100, staff 255, this is the staff IDs, let's say, right? And 300. So if you group by, they are already distinct. It doesn't make sense. But whatever you mention in your group by, the column that you mention in your group by should be okay to use in the select part. And so we'll be working on that. How many different jobs exist in company? So back to the tables that we have. Actually, these are the tables. Let's bring this. Okay, so here. The question is, how many different jobs exist here? So don't think about the query, just looking at the table, tell me how many different jobs do we have. Anyone else? How many different jobs do we have? Yes?
3.
Which table did you look at?
The job.
Which table?
The job table.
The staff table. The job column, you mean?
Yeah, the job column.
Yeah.
And I looked at manager, sales, and clerks.
Yeah, manager, sales, and clerk, let's say. So we have 3 different jobs in the table. So can you tell me how did you do that? Not the query. I want to understand how to write the query later. So what you do is first looking where you can find the jobs, which table, right? So if I'm asking you how many different jobs do we have, so first you want to select the job from which table, right? From the staff table, because the jobs are in the staff table. So you already know you have to select something from the staff. Now, which column? The job column. If you write select job from staff, it gives you whatever you have in the job column, right? Now, if you want to find the different jobs that we have in the staff table, can you tell me how do you do that?
Do we use select distinct?
Exactly. You then select distinct. So instead of, if you write select job from staff, right? It gives you manager, sale, manager, clerk. So all the data that you have in the job table, right? If you write select distinct job from staff, then it gives you manager, sale, then it removes the duplicate for manager, right? And then goes to clerk. So it only gives you the distinct values in the job column. What if you want to count or find the number of different jobs or distinct jobs that you have? Which aggregate functions are you using? Count, right? So easy. Then you just write select count, right? Distinct job from staff. One common mistake I see is people writing select distinct count job. Okay, So you write always select count, and then this thing drops, okay? And now, this one is more interesting. Whose salary is above company's average salary? So how do you answer this question? So first of all, we want to see if you want to find the staff whose salaries are higher than the company's average salary, what should you find first? Company's average salary, right? So you first have to find company's average salary. And let's say we find company's average salary is 100K. Okay, so this is the company's average salary. Then this query will be very easy. Then it's like whose salary is greater than 100K, right? So if I ask you, write a query, find the employees whose salary is above 100K, what do you write? You just write select. First of all, which table contains salary information? The staff organization. Look at the tables. The staff table, right? The staff table contains salary information. So we want to select from the staff table. What do we want to select? Employees, right? We want to find employees whose salary is greater than something, right? Now select, for example, a staff ID, a staff name. This will give me something like this so far. Always think about what your result should look like. So if I write this, my result will be staff ID, a staff name, right? And so now let's simplify the question first. Instead of finding the employees whose salary is greater than company's average salary, let's think you know what is the average salary, and let's assume that the average salary is 100K, right? Now if I want to find the employees whose salary is above 100K, how do you write that condition? Because this will give me all the staff ID and name so far, right? But I only want the ones that their salary is higher than 100K. Come on. Yes?
Do you do like use the greater than sign in the average?
Yeah, and in which clause? Which clause should I use? Clause is like, for example, select, from, where, and so on, group by. So these are the different clauses that we learn. So what should I write here?
Group by salary.
Group by salary.
The aggregate.
Okay, let's say group by salary. So what does it do? Then if you have, for example, a table of employees in your staff table, let's say you have several employees with the same salary, what it does is just grouping those salaries, right? And then finding what? We want to group the data to find, for example, average, minimum, maximum count, something like using with aggregated functions. So, do you understand what I say? So does it give you a condition that a salary, to find a salary greater than 100K? So where did you mention that? So for example, do you remember I was explaining the examples, for instance, with the update, right? The update command. The first slide I explained today. So I said I want to like update the salary of, for example, a specific employee. So I update the table, set the salary column, right? For example, multiply by 2. but I don't want to update all the salaries. I only want to update salary of a specific employee. So I used it in the where clause, right? So where is where you use your conditions. So where. So do you understand why group by doesn't work here? Because it groups all the salaries. Let's say if you have here, for example, something like this. If you have something like this and you group by salary, what it does, it groups the data like this, right? So now, why should we group by? Because if we want to find something for each group, for example, when we group by departments, because we wanted to find the salary for each department, right? Or we want to find, for example, the number of employees in each department. That's why we group by the department. But if we group by the salary, can we find the employees whose salary is greater than 100? No, right? So it doesn't make sense to use group by here. Also, if you use group by with salary, your select part is limited to only salary and aggregated functions. So again, you don't have staff ID and something here. Okay, so the staff ID and here is the staff name. So I use where, right? Where is where you put your conditions in. Now, what is my condition? Salary greater than something. So where salary greater than something. Now, something could be 100K, which is the average, but we don't know, right? So now in this part, you have to write another query to find the company's average salary, right? And we call it nested query, okay? So far easy, right? If you want to find employees whose salary is greater than 100K, because you know 100K, you easily write your condition. But what if you don't know the average salary is 100K? Then you have to find the average salary. Now, this question is like two questions, like two queries. First, how to find the company's average salary, and next, how to find the employees whose salary is greater than the company's average. So how can I find the company's average salary? Easy, right? We already covered that. How can we find company's average salary? Yes?
Average salary,
Just using the aggregated function's average salary, right? So, select average salary from staff. So this will give you the average salary, right? Which is, let's say 100K. I don't know what is that number in your table, but let's assume it's this. And then it gives you all the employees whose salary is above this number. And this is the company's average. So, and this salary here is optional, putting the salary here. So it's more clear because if you write, for example, select the staff name, right now my result will be something like this. For example, the staff ID 1, name Mona, the staff ID 2, name Alex. And let's assume that these are the only two employees whose salary are above the company's average, okay? So this is the result that I'll get. But what if you want to see their salary? Then you can specify that in your select statement. So whatever column you want to see in your result, put that in your select statement. But in this case, it's optional because I didn't ask you what is the salary of those employees whose salary is greater than the company's average salary, right? I was asking who are the employees whose salary are greater than something. Right? Question? Okay. And so here you can see, for example, if you write select average salary from staff, right? You will get this average salary, which is this number. And then if you write this nested query, it gives you the staff name or employees whose salary are above this number. And you can verify that, right? You can see that all these salaries, right, are greater than this. Why do I have no column name here? Look at my query. So I wrote select average salary from staff, okay, and I got this. So if you don't specify a name, you often get either this or you just get something like this. But you could just write select average salary, AS, as, right? For example, give you the name and then seeing that name here instead of no column name. And having a salary column here has the advantage that you can check it with the average and make sure that your query return the correct results. Okay. Now, aggregate functions can appear only within the select clause and or the having part of the statement. I'm going to explain having clause in a few minutes, but just to let you know, the only places that you can use aggregate functions are either if you are using, for example, a group by, and then in your select part of the statement, you can use that, or just in general, even without group by, you just want to find average salary, right? Then you just use it in the select part, or if you have having. But can you write something like this? Select staff and salary from staff where salary greater than average salary? No. Because the reason I mentioned this, because it was a question asked by one of the students, that why can't we easily write this, and then in the where clause, we just write select salary, so where salary is greater than average salary. Because we simply cannot do that in SQL. You cannot use aggregated functions in the where clause. Okay? You always have to use that in the select part. So if you write salary greater than select average salary, then it's fine because you're using aggregate functions in the select part. And this is the error that you'll get. And we'll practice this today together. Don't worry, but just want to make sure that we finish the slides first. This is another example. Finding number of products and average price for each vendor. How do you do that? So don't look at the answer. Just think about it. You want to find something, number of products, for example, average price for each vendor. So when I say we want to find like these values for each vendor, I should group by, right? And group by what? Don't sleep. Please. Group by?
Vendor ID.
Vendor ID, right? So then it will give you a table with distinct vendors, right? Vendor ID, I don't know, whatever numbers that we have. Vendor ID PG, MK, right? And that's it, PG and MK. And then finding the average price and number of products. How to find number of products? Either count the product or count the star. That's the same because you're selecting from the product, right? And in the product table, each row belongs to a distinct product, right? We cannot have two same products in the product table. That's redundant, right? So if I'm selecting a star from the product, it means count the star from the product. It means counting all the products. So finding number of products and average price, which is average number price, from the product table, group by vendor ID. And then you can sort these in whatever order you want using the order by if I ask you. And this is what happens like internally. So internally, this is your product table. So first of all, as I said, it groups based on the vendor ID. So look at the vendor ID column. We only have PG and MK, so we group these two together. And then for each of like these vendors, it finds, for example, the count of the products, right? And also the price. And this is what I already explained, that if you use group by, then your select part of your statement is limited to only the grouped attributes, that is whatever you mentioned here, and the built-in functions. So what is the problem here? Is this correct or not? And if not, what is the problem? So we're selecting several columns from the staff and organization tables. And so we are actually joining the staff and organization here. Group by department name. So can you tell me what is the problem? So first of all, what does this query do? Always just imagine what would be the result of the query. For example, if you are selecting department name, organization, location, and so on, so it means your results look like what? So just write it. So we have department name, we have location, organization location, we have average salary, and max salary, mean salary, count star. I don't write the rest because they are all similar to these aggregated functions, right? So they are the same. We don't have enough space, so we just write this. Now, this would be the result. And then we selected from these two tables. Why both tables? Because the information or the columns that we want don't exist in only one table. Some of them are in the staff table, some of them are in the organization table. And then we group by department name, which means, can I have repeated departments here? No, because we group by departments. So we will have, for example, what are our department names in the tables that we have? You just tell me and I'll write. Someone look at the table. What are the department names? So, look at the staff and organization table. So we should have some department D10, 20, something like that, right? Let's say D10, D15, D20, D38, and so on. So these are the departments, different departments that we have. Actually, these are department numbers, but whatever, department number or name. Now, average salary for each department is some values. And this is organization location. Can you tell me what is the problem with this query? What is the column in the group by? Department name. If you are grouping by department name, what is the limitation on your select part of the statement? You will have a question about this in your exam, so it's good to actually be careful here. Your select part will be limited to only the column that you use in group by, which is department name. So it's correct to write select department name. It's also fine to use any other column as long as you use with the aggregated functions. For example, you cannot write salary, right? But you can write average salary. You cannot write salary, but you can write minimum or maximum salary. You cannot write employee ID, staff name, but you can write count staff ID or count star, right? Count star in the staff table is number of employees. Now, what is the problem?
Org location is not an aggregate function.
Yeah, organization location is not used with an aggregated functions. And organization location, if you look at your table, there might be employees in different locations, right? And then which one do you want to write? So you cannot use that. So this is not correct. And this is the explanation why. So I explained with just 2 columns. So let's imagine we have table T with 2 columns, A and B. Column A has 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, and then column B some values, right? Now, let's say I select A and B from table T, group by A, right? So what does this query do? First of all, when you use group by, it groups your data or rows based on that column, based on column A. So it groups the data into how many groups? If you're grouping by column A, you only have these 2 columns, right? You have A and B, and this is your table T. You have 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, right? And then some values here, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L. Right? So if you are grouping by A, it means you group the data like this. So how many groups do you have? 2. So if I select A and B from T, right? Group by A, what is the problem? We don't know which value of B to write for each A. So whenever I group by A, my result should be something like that, right? So here I have A, which is 1 and 2. So only these 2 values because we grouped. So we have 2 groups. Group 1, group 2. So what is the value of B here? I don't know. There are 3 values. We cannot write multiple values in one cell. That's against the relational tables constraints that we talked about before. So the same here. We don't know what to write. But what if you write, for example, maximum of B? Then you know, for example, in group A, you want to select maximum in group 1, and then in group 2 also you want to select the maximum, or count, or whatever, right? So that's the reason.